We're often told this totally broken story about risk. It's like you have two options. You're either the reckless daredevil, going all in on some crazy long shot, or you're the person who's so cautious they never, ever make a move. And that forces you into this choice between being a gambler or just being stuck. But what if that whole framework is just completely wrong? What if the most successful people have a totally different way of looking at risk?
And this is the crucial point right here. The most successful people, the most innovative companies, they aren't just fearless risk takers, they're risk discriminators. They have a system for telling the difference between a foolish gamble and a smart bet. They know when to jump because they've actually engineered the leap.
And this really shows the trap that so many of us fall into. If you never take a risk, what happens? You stagnate. Your skills get old, opportunities dry up. But if you just take reckless risks, well, you're pretty much just setting yourself up for a total collapse. The real path, the one that leads to growth, is in that space right between these two extremes.
So, to find that middle path, we first need a framework. And it all starts with understanding the two fundamental types of risk. Getting this right isn't just about the words we use, it's the core difference between making real progress and, well, failing.
A blind risk is basically a wish. It's just closing your eyes, crossing your fingers, and hoping for the best. A calculated risk, on the other hand, that's built on a solid foundation of analysis. It accepts that, hey, the outcome isn't guaranteed, but it uses structure and data to seriously improve the odds.
Think about what's driving the decision. Blind risk is so often driven by pure impulse, by impatience, by ego, or sometimes even desperation. But calculated risk, that's driven by intelligence. It forces you to slow down, to quiet that emotional system, and to engage in some deliberate, structured thinking about what's ahead.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road. With a blind risk, the downside can be absolutely catastrophic. It can wipe you out completely. There's no plan B. In contrast, a calculated risk has a contained and survivable downside. You have a contingency plan. You've already defined your exposure so that if you fail, you live to fight another day.
So why do we so often default to either taking a blind risk or just doing nothing at all? Well, it turns out our brains are kind of wired with these mental shortcuts, these biases, that make us terrible at judging risk when the pressure's on. We get swayed by emotion and we miscalculate the odds, which pushes us to either freeze up or just gamble recklessly.
So how do we fight back against those biases and start making smarter choices? We start by hunting for one of the most powerful concepts in all of decision-making, asymmetry.
This right here, this is the secret sauce. An asymmetric risk is basically a bet where the potential reward is just massively bigger than the potential loss. You're not looking for a 50-50 coin flip. You're looking for a situation where if you lose, you only lose a little, but if you win big.
This chart is the perfect way to see it. Just look at that tiny little bar for potential loss compared to that absolutely massive bar for potential gain. That is the shape of a smart risk. The goal isn't to avoid failure. It's to structure your bets so that failure is affordable and success is totally transformative. Okay, so the theory makes a ton of sense. But how do you actually find or create these kinds of opportunities in the real world? The key is to stop thinking about these giant, terrifying leaps and start thinking about small, smart tests.
We almost always frame our big decisions like this, don't we? As a single, scary, all-or-nothing jump into the unknown. It's a question that's practically designed to paralyze you with fear.
A much, much better question is, what's the smallest, cheapest, fastest test I can run to get more data? So instead of quitting your job cold turkey, you start the business as a side project. Instead of building a product and hoping someone wants it, you build an audience first. This approach completely changes the game. It turns that fear into valuable feedback, and it turns pure speculation into real-world information.
But here's the paradox. While we've been talking all about being calculated and careful, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can possibly do is wait too long. In a world that's changing this fast, standing still means you're actually falling behind. Your skills become outdated, markets get totally saturated, and those little windows of opportunity, they slam shut. The cost of doing nothing isn't zero. It actually compounds over time, which makes a future move even riskier. So how do you know when it's actually time to make that calculated jump? You need to look for these signals. First, can you survive the downside? Second, is the cost of waiting now becoming greater than the cost of acting? Maybe you have an information advantage that others don't, and this one is critical. You have to recognize that your fear is about bruising your ego, not about a genuine threat to your survival. When all these conditions line up, hesitation is no longer caution, it's a liability.
Ultimately, the key takeaway is this. The ability to know when and how to jump is a skill you can build. It's a competency. It's not about blind courage or being some reckless daredevil. It's about preparation, it's about structure, and it's about having a deep understanding of risk. It's about being an architect of your own opportunities.
Progress doesn't belong to the reckless or to the people who are frozen in place. It belongs to those who learn how to engineer their leaps. So the real question isn't whether you're brave enough to jump, but whether you're smart enough to build the right runway first.